Heard that this Capitol has been overrun by protesters today, but the activists in the Capitol making a last-ditch effort to push that millionaire's tax among a number of other issues aren't planning on going home anytime soon. They've actually planned to camp out all night long, and they've even arranged for provisions, placing what they said was the largest pizza order ever delivered to the state Capitol. Joining me now to talk more about this is Ron Deutsch. He's the executive director of New Yorkers for Fiscal Fairness. You've seen him on this show before. Hi, Ron. How are you?
How you doing, Liz?
I am well, thanks. Okay, so I know you don't want to focus too much on the pizza. I'm sorry. It's just the idea, and I promise you I won't ask too much about it, but the idea that you had difficulty getting provisions into the Capitol to feed people who had shown up just to get access to their elected officials is actually sort of indicative of the difficulty that they had today trying to get their voices heard.
Yeah, I think it is indicative of that, and I think it's unfortunate. I mean, a lot's been made of this pizza delivery that's been coming in. I mean, we're here to focus on budget cuts, not 8 cuts. So I think we want to make sure that people understand why we're here, and it's certainly not about pizza, although it is amazing that pizza has become such a hot topic all of a sudden at the Capitol today.
Well, I mean, I think that the problem was that there were a lot of hoops that the protesters were asked to jump through, and there were very long lines, of course, as we saw from just Steve Ferentz's report just a moment ago. It was difficult. There were areas of the Capitol that you couldn't access. Is that right?
Yeah, I really think that I was shocked, actually, at how many different parts of the Capitol were shut down today, seemingly because we were here. I think that what I found strange was I first tried to walk into the Senate lobby and was told I couldn't come in. And obviously, you know, and many other lobbyists have been in there, you know, over and over again every day. So we were shut out there. The Assembly shut down the mezzanines. The Senate shut down one of their mezzanines. And then, you know, obviously we couldn't get pizza into the Capitol. So it's been a rough day, and we've been getting shut out. You know, democracy isn't pretty sometimes, and we saw that today. So.
Well, just to before we talk to about the meat of the issue or the veggie pie of the issue, if you will. Seriously, though, I mean, you do have to allow that there is a security issue, that, you know, you have to keep lawmakers safe. There's a lot of people showing up at the Capitol, and particularly in the wake of what we saw in Arizona, you know, you just can't be too careful. I mean, it's got to be clear, right? I mean, it sounds like people were a little nervous.
Yeah, I think people were a little nervous, and I understand that. And the state police, quite frankly, have been wonderful. They've been great to work with, and we've had negotiating teams working with them and folks out of the governor's office. So, I mean, everybody's been rather amenable to our needs. The pizza thing, I think, was just kind of a strange glitch. But overall, I think, you know, the tone here today has been one of respect, in the sense that, you know, we're trying to be respectful of the institution itself. But obviously people are here today because they're not happy with the budget that's being passed.
Yeah, and tell me, do you know at this point whether you will be allowed to occupy the Capitol throughout the night, or have you been told that that might not be possible? Because there were reports that as soon as the legislature goes within an hour, they're going to be shutting down the building and asking people to leave. Although, look, I've been in the building all night long when there wasn't a session, but we were waiting for something to happen, so that I'm not necessarily certain what the protocol is there.
Yeah, it's strange. A lot of us have spent many a night at the Capitol, many a late night during budget session, and tonight is going to be one of those nights. Now, whether or not we're allowed to spend the night in the Capitol remains to be seen. Whether or not we're allowed to spend the night in the concourse area or the convention center area, I think may be more likely. But I think our hope and the hope of all the people that came up here today is that we will be able to spend the night at the Capitol, mulling around. You know, even if lawmakers do leave, we would like to continue to stay in the People's House.
Okay, well now, and explain why, because as you and I actually had a discussion last week about your key signature issue, the millionaire's tax, is not in this budget deal. It looks like the cuts that you are most upset about, specifically to education, are going to go through, the bulk of them. I mean, and I don't want to put the kibosh on democracy, small d, which I think is very important, but what's the point if you're not going to actually influence the final outcome?
Well, I think we didn't come here today thinking that we were going to change the final outcome. I think the reason we're all here today is to register our dissatisfaction with not only the process, but the outcome from that process. I think the cuts are far too deep, deeper than they certainly had to be, right? I think that the governor was very clear about his choices, and we think he made the wrong choice. We felt that the millionaire's tax or the income tax surcharge on upper income wage earners in New York should have been extended. I mean, this is a tax that's already in place, and instead of simply extending it during this time of fiscal need, what the governor and Senator Skelos have really decided to do is eliminate that and provide basically a $5 billion a year tax cut to the wealthiest 3% of New Yorkers, while the rest of us are left to fight for scraps.
Well, and we should also say that the Assembly is on tap to pass this deal, although they did try, the Assembly Democrats, to put an extension of the millionaire's tax with, as we've discussed on the show, an increased threshold starting at $1 million. But they are poised to pass the deal, and it doesn't look like they're going to be sort of widespread no votes. But, you know, in Wisconsin, and we've talked about sort of a Wisconsin-style event that's happening, and I made the comparison at the top of the show, but they stayed for the week of rage. Are you planning on staying for an entire week, or you're going to do this for 24 hours and then go?
Yeah, I think we're here today and tonight and into tomorrow. We are going to continue to be monitoring the legislature as they pass these budgets. And you know, I think the sad reality is, you know, we talk a lot about transparency, but the reality is these bills are just getting printed and dropped on legislators' desks. They have no idea what the details are in the budget. Sure, they've been briefed by their leaders. But in reality, I mean, these budgets are lengthy documents with tons of details in them. And as you know, the devil is in the details. And we think that the legislators themselves don't really have a firm grasp about all the cuts and the ramifications of the cuts that are in this budget.
Well, I mean, look, that's nothing new either. I've covered many a budget where you walk past a legislator's desk and you can put your hand on the still warm from the printing press or copier or what have you, budget bills that they're about to pass. And look, there's supplementals that could come out, and I think, you know, you have a possibility of influencing things down the road maybe, but, you know, this is nothing new necessarily.
That's true. I'm sure the bills are very warm, perhaps warm enough to roast some s'mores.
Oh, you did bring the s'mores, just like I asked. You're a good sport, Ron. But no fires at the Capitol, no campfires, and so far no arrests. So hopefully your peaceful protest remains that way. I want to thank you very much, Ron Deutsch, for showing up and helping us out tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Liz.